Odo prepares Kira's Raktajino every Tuesday morning. Shakar wants Bajor to join the Federation. And Quark says last night it sounded like a Takaran wildebeest was tromping around upstairs. But Odo says once Quark complained, he took the form of a Raphalian mouse, of course. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
We are also joined by a very special guest today. You know him as Shakar, First Minister Shakar, that is. You also know him as the sex candle ghost in The Next Generation, Mr. DUNCAN REGEHR. How are you, Duncan?
Pretty good. Hi, everybody.
Awesome. So, Cirroc is having technical difficulties right now, so he is the icon, everybody, that you see in the bottom of the picture. He is here. He is present. He is excited to join us. My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine Season 4, Crossfire. Cirroc, it's directed by Mr. Les Landau, a man we haven't spoken of.
Yes,
recently.
yes. Less is more. Our favorite guy from Self-Sealing Stem Bolts.
Right. And it's written by Renee Echevarria. So let's talk about this episode very quickly. Duncan, you played Shakar, First Minister Shakar, in 3 episodes of Deep Space Nine, this being the second one. The first episode was called Shakar. Do you remember the auditioning process? Did you know anything about Star Trek at all before you auditioned?
To be honest, not that much. I mean, I was familiar, growing up. I watched the Bill Shatner version of Star Trek, and then later I did the Sex Candle Ghost for Next Generation, so I had some familiarity there. But in terms of Deep Space Nine, I came onto it without auditioning for it.
Oh, great.
And I was really only familiar with that one episode. I thought that was sort of what it was all that I was going to be doing on it. I didn't realize there were going to be subsequent episodes. It's always something that, often discussed in meetings about these things, that you'll play this character and there's a possibility that, he'll be ongoing. And, I would listen to that and think, okay, I'll believe it when I see it, that sort of thing. But, so.
Now, you said you didn't have to audition for this role?
No.
They just handed it to you?
Well, I don't know what went on behind the scenes to make it happen, but I just remember, the offer coming through, and I read the script, and I said, yes, Shakar's an interesting character, and yeah, I'll play him. Fine.
Yeah, your work preceded you there. Because you said you had already worked on The Next Generation, and a lot of Star Trek likes to reuse actors that they know. They say, what about this guy? He was really good in such and such. I bet he could play this.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Were you living in Canada at the time?
Yes, I was. Well, I was sort of commuting back and forth between Los Angeles and Vancouver Island at that time.
Okay.
Cirroc, I'm kind of bummed, though. I got to be honest. I'm kind of bummed that we can't see your face, because we didn't mention the Sex Candle Ghost, and I really wanted to see your reaction when I said that.
You said Sex Candle Ghost. You might have to put that in perspective for me.
Sure, I'm not sure if it's Sex Scandal Ghost or Sex Candle Ghost.
Candle.
I just found out about it myself recently, that's what that character was called. That's kind of a notorious episode of Star Trek Next Generation. People either love it or they're highly critical. There's a lot of criticism about it.
Right. It's just something, Cirroc, that happened that kind of started getting notoriety recently. It was an episode on Next Generation where Beverly Crusher is seeing a ghost played by Duncan. And I don't really remember the episode too much, and we haven't watched it yet together. But it's become pretty famous. Once Star Trek fans, all it takes is for one of them to bring up an episode or a character again, and then everybody jumps on. They're like, yeah, what was up with that guy, And then, of course, when people realize that that's the same guy that plays Shakar, then everybody's mind gets blown.
Yeah. The episode, by the way, was called Sub Rosa.
Right. That's right. Sub Rosa. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Sub Rosa.
So you acted in Next Generation, then they asked you to return as Shakar.
Yeah.
The first episode, though, you didn't set foot on Deep Space Nine. You were with Nana Visitor as Kira, and that's basically it as far as the main cast, if I remember correctly, in that episode. So you didn't first set foot on the set of Deep Space Nine until this episode.
Right.
Do you remember your first impressions or any thoughts or memories you have of coming onto the set?
I was actually kind of baffled because there was this character change for Shakar. I played the sort of swashbuckling, rebel leader, come farmer, sort of type of character in the Shakar. And when they came up with this, arriving on the Space Nine set and in the new position of being a prime minister, suddenly there was a different character to Shakar altogether. From my point of view, I didn't really understand too much about what was going on. I felt a little bit at sea, to be quite frank. I really didn't know what to make of it.
Now, do you remember anything that maybe the director, Les Landau, or any of the producers or writers said to you to kind of help you get your bearings? Did they give you like some backstory, like here's what's going on, this is what your character's gone through?
A little bit, just factual stuff about that he's become the prime minister, and suddenly I had a very nice haircut, and and Shakar suddenly became more refined and sophisticated, or whatever the character was supposed to be. I never figured it out, to be really honest with you. I never figured it out. And the other thing about, coming onto a set like that, there's a lot of presumption that all this stuff about everybody else. I didn't have a clue.
Right.
I didn't know who anybody knew. Nana, who was, very gracious and lovely and easy to fall in love with, and, quite wonderful. And she made me very welcome. And so did Renee. He was quite lovely. So I could kind of ask questions about what's this? What's that? Who is this person? What is that? And I remember point. I'm not sure if it was this episode or maybe the subsequent one, but Avery came on and we had some sort of little scene with him, and there was the emissary was continually referred to. And I kept looking around for the emissary. Going to arrive here. And Nana sort of whispered in my ear and said, "Avery is the emissary." Oh, okay. And I thought, well, he's Avery. It never occurred to me. He's Avery Brooks. He's a wonderful musician, actor. He couldn't be the emissary. It just never occurred to me.
That's funny.
So there was that kind of, I don't know, in a fog, really.
Yeah.
Had you worked with Renee or Avery in the past?
I hadn't worked with Avery, but I had with Renee. Renee and I did Gore Vidal's Billy the Kid some years before that in Tucson.
Gore Vidal, interesting.
Yeah.
Gore Vidal's.
That's a name.
And it was Val Kilmer, me. Val played Billy the Kid, and I played Pat Garrett. And Renee played the drunk. He was a beautiful drunk.
Really? Wow, got to see that. So this was actually a very important episode in the Deep Space Nine lore. Just to give you a little bit of background on this, this is season 4 out of 7. And I think the writers started giving us hints that Odo likes Kira, I think towards the end of the second season. But this kind of gives us a much bigger window into that, not just with the scenes with you in particular, but also with the scenes not with you when he talks with another character named Quark. And so this is, obviously it's what they call kind of a bottle episode where it's just kind of by itself. It's its own thing. You can put it anywhere, but it's part of this 6 or 7 season long story between Odo and Kira, and it's a very important moment. And I'm only assuming that they may not, Duncan, have told you this, that it's really part of this really big picture. Whereas you as an actor, you're just like, what are my roles? What's the subtext? By the way, huge amounts of subtext in every one of these scenes, which I really loved.
Yes, I did too. I really love that.
Mm-hmm. So Duncan, did they ever give you any discussion or notes about like the bigger meaning behind things, or did they think it was better for you as an actor to play a character that doesn't know about all this bigger picture stuff?
Yeah, I guess maybe that was it. I mean, I did ask a lot of questions about it, but as you say, their concerns were for these two mainstream characters, I think, and what was going to unfold between them. I picked that up, of course.
Yeah.
But it became a character that seemed to me to be sort of almost in homage to the other characters in the show. That's what I got that much from it. But I really was in the dark for a lot of it. I didn't really understand it.
Interesting.
But I have to say, Nana and Renee were very, very helpful. They were wonderful, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you come across as a real stud on camera. And I just, as a man who's comfortable with himself, I can say that you are a handsome, good-looking guy and real debonair. And I think that it really plays well in this episode how everything that you're expressing is exactly what Odo can't find the words to say.
Yeah.
And I just love the way the writers kind of put that in together so that you were revealing and confident, how you felt, but it was actually how he felt as well. And I just thought it was so clever.
Yeah, I guess so.
But I wanted to ask you a little bit about your background, though, because Ryan, I know you probably know this, but I was completely intrigued to find out that you had so much talent, Duncan. It said that you were a figure skater and a Olympic boxer, and I mean, I was hearing about all this stuff about you. Not to mention you're like this world-renowned artist. I wanted you to talk about a little bit about your history growing up before acting.
Okay. Yeah, I think I knew pretty early on that I was going to entertain being an actor. I think I knew that by the time I was 12. But previous to that, I was much more interested in literature and painting. My father was a painter. And I sort of had this idea in my head from a very young age that I was going to be an artist, a painter, and then subsequently a sculptor as well. But and along the way, I was sort of thrust into this thing of figure skating, which was very, very physical and what have you. But I wasn't interested in it. I was pretty good at it. I wasn't. I just wasn't interested in it, and went in the other direction when I was old enough to say, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to go into this other area, this other field of sport, which was boxing. Not the best thing for an actor to be doing, but
that's gambling with your moneymaker right there.
Well, I did okay, but yeah, it was my Hemingway moment, I guess. In my 20s, I wanted to really prove something to myself more than anything else. And so all of that sort of went along at the same time that I was, working on the theater. In the theater, I started when I was 16 in Shakespeare, and subsequently went to Stratford, and then eventually came to Hollywood with that. But all throughout all of that, I was painting, avidly painting.
Speaking of painting, you are quite the accomplished painter. And we're told that you're currently preparing for a solo exhibit at Petley Jones Gallery in Vancouver this fall.
Yeah, it'll be later this year. in the fall. It's I usually do as many as I can, that in whatever part of the world I can do them in. But at the moment, that's not happening for the obvious reason. But yes, Vancouver is around the corner from me, so yeah, it's going to happen there.
And now everybody that's listening in here, by the way, his website is DUNCANREGEHRartworks.com. We will include that in the description box below, so please check that out to know everything that you want to know about this art exhibit, as well as the latest book that Duncan is compiling called Solace, which is a follow-up to your 2018 volume Presence, which combined a selection of poetry and paintings, both done by you, because you apparently are good at basically everything. Apparently. So, can you hold up your book you showed?
Yeah, sure. I got one right here. I knew you'd ask. So
yeah, great. Look at that.
That maybe two.
That's gorgeous. It almost has a feel of like old school, like almost like tarot cards or Renaissance drawings. It definitely is very reminiscent of that kind of feeling. What's your biggest inspiration when you're drawing or painting?
Well, most of my work is figurative, so I would have to say human beings and the human condition. A lot of my work comes out of philosophy and theory, and what I'm interested in at the moment. So I've sort of, done the gamut of anything from literature, history, and anthropology, psychology, sociology. All of those things are pretty influential, and I suppose metaphysics as well.
Mm-hmm.
Quantum physics.
Yes, Cirroc, I'm sorry you couldn't see the painting, but I'll try to describe it to you. It's like this big dragon flying out of the Deep Space Nine wormhole. The emissary is riding in on a Pegasus with a lasso. It's really cool. You'd love it.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, I'm actually looking at other pieces of work that he's done, and this one piece called Blinder's Wall, which I believe is in British Columbia, on display at the Petley Jones Gallery, it says, but I'm not sure if it's still there. This piece looks really beautiful, Blinder's Wall.
Thank you. Yes, it was shown there as part of the first Presence exhibit to launch the recent book, Presence.
I love that piece. Piece. Also,
there's three at Blinder's Wall paintings, and they're sort of connected to each other.
Yeah, I love the graffiti in the background and the way it just looks so beautiful. It's just gorgeous, man.
Now, sorry to interrupt, Cirroc, but while we're talking about that, Duncan, these are all things people can purchase this book and your subsequent book on your website, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, great. Everybody, I mean, Christmas is just around the corner. We're 11 months away only. No, but really, everybody, go to the website that we will include in the link, the description box below. Check it out. Lots of really good stuff. Cirroc's got a keen eye on art, as we all know, and it's definitely worth a look. Sorry, you were saying, Cirroc?
Yeah, I don't know about the keen eye part, but I do respect some really quality stuff. And I mean, clearly this is like, way above my pay grade. I see also this one called Lunaris from the Lost Man series.
Oh, right.
Lost Man series.
Yeah.
Just gorgeous artwork, guys. You got to really check this stuff out. The detail's amazing. It looks, in the one that I'm looking at, the man riding this horse, it looks just like he's draped in this really colorful African kind of print, clothing or cloth, but I'm not sure if that's what I'm looking at is what I'm, is the right thing, but
probably more
just amazing
than that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so, I mean, it's just, I love your style, and I'm sure it would be a pleasure to have one of your pieces on the wall.
Now, basically what we're saying is we can totally understand why Kira fell in love with you. It's so obvious. You're 6'4", multi-talented. We only have a couple minutes left before we have to take our break, and I know you have to run. But before we do that, can we just touch on your poetry a little bit? This was something I didn't know about until a couple days ago. What's your biggest influence as a poet, or who, I should say?
Oh gosh, there's quite a few. I would say T.S. Eliot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
More modern would be Billy Collins. And they're a million miles apart from each other. I realize that. It would be the big influences would be these guys for sure. Mm-hmm. There's several others more obscure than that. Yeah.
Cool. So before you do go, can you give us any final thoughts on your experience on Deep Space Nine, any of the 3 episodes? Was there anything that stands out? Like if you reminisce about your old days on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, is there anything that pops out? Is it how gracious Nana or Renee were? Was it how big the set was of Deep Space Nine? Was there anything that stood out to you?
Well, all of that is pretty, it's a long time ago, but it was pretty awe-inspiring. The very first episode, Shakar, of course, was an exteriors. And we're in some canyon somewhere. But, when you arrive on the set with these doors that opened automatically, and I was really surprised to discover the guy behind me on the either side opening the door for me, because I thought it was quite magical. One just sort of expects that, but you do get the feeling that you're floating. That's what I felt all the time, that I was in outer space. Of course I was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Yeah.
And even in between scenes, I'd sit in the chairs, and Renee usually was holding forth with some wonderful opinion or viewpoint on something, and he was a wonderful raconteur as well. But even when we were sitting in the chairs, I still felt like we were in outer space. We weren't shooting any scenes, but I felt that, almost shocked to step outside the stage door and say, oh, it's Hollywood.
Yeah. Wow.
I've had that same kind of feeling too, because they have these curtains outside of the windows with the black velvet and these diamond-like stars, right? And so as you're looking out of the windows, it really does feel like you're kind of floating in space.
Yeah.
That's so funny, because I really was wondering that on this very episode, when Shakar and Kira share their moment of watching the wormhole open and saying, oh, if you see the wormhole open, there's a wish. And Odo it's a beautiful scene. It's just hilarious and sad all at the same time. But I remember looking out at the stars out there and going, wow, that really does look like you guys are out floating in space. And I wondered if it felt that way to you guys too. So I'm really glad that you guys brought that up, because I was literally wondering that because of that scene.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So we do have to take our quick break, and Mr. Duncan Regehr does have to leave. He's a very busy man, and we want to thank you very much for joining us for this. This has been really great.
Really, it's been lovely chatting with both of you. Thank you.
That's awesome. I wish I could have seen you in person. I did see you for a short time when we were when I was trying to load in, but I do see you here, and it's so great that you were able to take some time out to be on the show. And what a great performance! Obviously, you're the type of guy that could make another guy jealous, and you did a good job of that in this episode.
He did a good job of that in this episode, he says.
He sure did.
No, it was great.
I look forward to shaking hands with you one day. It'd be great.
Oh, it'll be my pleasure.
Yeah, and definitely, like what Cirroc is alluding to, what we're discussing, in the bigger picture, you are a major element in this storyline between these two main characters. It's a very poignant episode and very poignant moment for the two of them. It's beautiful. It's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, Duncan. We appreciate your time. Everybody, please check out his website and the social media links that we will include in the description box below. Show him some love. He's a great dude. And we'll be right back on the seventh rule.